Well, hey everyone. We're gonna let people sort of come in and get started. We have a weird week. It's exciting. Surprise. Matt is not here, and I'm actually here on purpose. So it's a fun week. We have two of our rock star cap pros on with us today who are gonna talk to you a little bit about appeals and those final commitments. I know a lot of you are in the final throes of that and have just finished with registration, maybe for your underclassmen for next year. So, as we're sort of moving into the spring weather, it is a beautiful day here in lovely South Carolina. Uh, I'm sorry to my northern friends who may still have snow on the ground, um, which might be Dan and Kevin, who are here with me today, might have snow on their ground. So, uh, but we I just wanted to say hi if you're joining us as a new counselor from either SACAC or MASCA. I'm thrilled that you're here, and today is a fantastic day for you to join. Uh, Dan Bisig is one of our, as we call him, the unicorn. He loves to not only work with financial aid, but also admissions, and is just a well of knowledge. He even for me, as a mom of a 10th grader, I have questions quite often for him and preparing. And so I'm excited for him to be on here. And he is actually the one that typically will be also on office hours. So as your families join our webinar series, they also get invited to that bi-weekly office hours session. And Dan is a lot of times the pro that's on there answering those questions on the fly. And then we also have another superstar, Kevin Murphy, who also has decades of experience. And we're thrilled to have him on the team and here on the call. A lot of you, if your families have done appeals, maybe have had a call with him, or a lot of times those free consults are with Kevin. So always somebody that is putting a smile on our faces and supporting us so well. So I'm going to turn it over to the pros, and as always, make sure and put your questions in that chat. We'll answer those however best we can. Take it
Thanks,
away,
Anne
guys.
Marie.
Thank
Yeah,
you, Anne
awesome.
Marie.
Hey, so folks, we're real excited to be with you today to talk about appeals and commitments. And I mean, the thing that's really critical about this, of course, is we're coming up on that magic date, which is May the 1st, which has been known, of course, as National Decision Day. And quite frankly, a lot of the colleges still stick to that as far as what they're looking for, when it comes to making those decisions, specifically when it comes to merit scholarships and things. So you guys already hopefully know what our mission is. We're really serious about this. We worry all the time when we see that big number, which is, I think it's up to $1.77 trillion now, which is the student debt crisis that's out there. But here we are again, and excited to be with you. What I'm going to do is start off today, and then I'm going to hand it over to Kevin, and we'll be going back and forth on different slides depending upon what we see. But appeals. This is really where we're at. Yes, we're sitting here and it's the 16th. By the way, I hope you all got your taxes in, or if you got that extension, if you had to do that. I know last night I was running to the post office at about 3 o'clock, and I was amazed at how quickly it went. But anyway, when to appeal? Who do you appeal to? Who do your families appeal to? Who should they appeal? And then how to appeal. These are the questions we're going to try to dive into today to walk you through this, because it really is a big, big deal. I will tell you, through College Aid Pro, we've had a lot of success as far as helping families with this. But there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. And so the first is the when. When is the right time to be doing? Well, of course, it's right now. So let's take a look at a timeline. Your families submitted their applications for admission back in the fall. Unless they did like an ED2 that might have come here in January, or a regular decision or rolling admission for that matter. They submitted their financial aid forms, and thankfully we had very little trouble with that this year. And then the students start, of course, getting their acceptance letters, where we're getting excited about that. And they receive those merit award notifications if they applied for that. But then the appeals. And so the appeals can be both the merit and the financial aid side. In fact, that's really what we want to talk about here, is that you need to understand what the offers are that they've received and whether or not there's a reason to go and appeal. First, let's understand what's going to be in these financial aid packages that they're receiving. Going to be grants. I mean, that's what we hope that we see is grants, which is free money. It's usually need-based. And again, it could be federal, state, or institutional money that shows up there. And there's no doubt that the student aid index is the driving force of this, meaning whether it's the federal SAI or the institutional SAI, some of the colleges are still using an institutional expected family contribution, as you may know. But grants are, of course, could be a big part of it, as well as scholarships. When we're talking about those scholarships, that's all based on your students' credentials. I mean, all the great things that they've done at your schools and the work that you've been doing with them and coaching them based on their grades, their test scores, their talent, whatever it might be. And so really the key with that is families have to know with the scholarships, of course, that it comes with a catch. The catch is, will your students meet the GPA and or full-time status to continue to have those scholarships that are awarded by the colleges? And then we move into other options, which is work study. That is, where your students hopefully are getting some extra money. Usually it's spending money, although the other day I was talking to a family and it's a private institution that's saying, hey, we'll apply that money right to the bottom line of the cost. So it depends on how much money that they're making there. But those are, on-campus job opportunities. And then last but not least, which often makes up the biggest bulk of financial aid offers, are loans. As we know, we have the federal direct student loan for freshmen, which is the $5,500. But then the other option is the Parent Plus loans and or other private loans that they may look at. But remember, those are not going to be illustrated on those financial aid offers from the colleges. So that's the whole package. Kevin, anything you want to add to that at all?
No, I would just say, you know what? Your students need to spend a little bit of time looking through it. Packages can be very misleading, very confusing. They can make loans look like free money. They can make the direct cost look like the cost of attendance, including those indirect expenses. So just be thorough with it. But we want the money on the left side, the money in the white, the money in the blue on the right-hand side is not ideal. It's either money that has to be paid back with interest or worked for. So hopefully their students are seeing a lot of money from the left side. But that's all I want to add.
Great point. Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
So we wanted to give you an idea of a sample of a financial aid offer, okay? And you're going to see a couple of things that are really, really important on this. The first thing is the estimated cost of attendance. And as we know, colleges try to do the best job they can to help families understand those costs. Now, truly the one number that's set is going to be the tuition cost. In other cases, the housing, the food plans, the books, transportation, all those things are variable depending upon what happens with the student. But again, they're trying to add everything up. So as we look at this, they itemize things. So they break it down to this particular financial aid offer, by the way, is terrific. And the fact that it's actually giving you details here. Then, they're showing loans and work study as far as this particular case of trying to help out. So immediately that number's thrown in here as far as what they're suggesting as far as a resource to help pay for college. When we go down a little bit further, there's an itemized breakdown now of the work study, the student loans, and those other loans. The other loans, just so we're clear, they actually stated here is the Parent Plus loan, which again, as Kevin said, one of the things that's a problem often with these financial aid offers is that they do zero out the amount. But the truth of the matter is somebody's got to be paying for those loans, right? They're going to have to be taking those dollars out. You will see in this case that there's a subsidized loan, which makes up $3,500 of the $5,500 that's available to the student, with the other $2,000 is unsubsidized. But it could be on those offers that it's 100% an unsubsidized loan, which means that there's interest being charged on that entire loan from day one. And then down here at the bottom, it's showing estimated remaining cost, which means, there's still monies that you're going to have to come up with to take care of this situation, okay? So families just have to understand going into this that sometimes these financial aid offers are transparent. In other cases, they're not. Any additional thoughts there, Kevin?
Yeah, you know what? I do want to add one thing. We're talking about appeals today. super obviously important topic. And that federal direct loan, a lot of people don't say yes to it. A lot of people don't accept it because of the fact that it's a loan. However, and we see this year over year, but a lot of schools require students to accept that federal direct loan. Like I've just submitted a few appeals for Syracuse, and to even submit the appeal, you have to go in and accept the federal direct loan. And we've seen other colleges make additional appeal money available contingent on the student accepting the federal direct loan and work study. So although it's a loan, you should talk to your students about why it's a good loan. And I think we'll do more presentations on that later on, but that may come up during the appeals process. So
excellent. All right. Down at the very, very bottom is the total financial aid, the 53,212. But oops, hang on a second. But, again, where's that number coming from? It's coming from right up here in the middle. That's the loans and work study that they're talking about. So, all right. Next option. This is another example. So what we've got here in the middle is the direct cost of $63,634. Indirect cost, which would be, again, books, miscellaneous expenses, travel, or transportation, then total loan fees of $4,540. So we come up with the total that's listed up top is $68,174. And then again, we're looking at what kinds of grants and free money in this particular case are we getting, which is the $23,000. So they subtract that off of that. Down here at the bottom, we've got the $5,500. Notice it says all of it being an unsubsidized loan in this particular case. And then they show $35,134 is the estimated cost after loans, but the real cost is $39,674. Again, in any of these cases with these families, it's all a matter of, are the circumstances different than when they originally applied for these financial aid offers? And we're going to talk about that. We're going to walk through some of these specific details so that as you're coaching your families and saying, yeah, we think that you've got a chance to do something, or no, you don't, that you at least are in a better position to try and help them identify what they should be doing. Okay. So who should be applying and doing these appeals? Well, first you need to know the types of appeals that are out there, because the first one is a merit aid appeal, and that's going to go through, in many, many cases, the Office of Admissions. There are some exceptions. I mean, I've seen a case, for example, at the University of Kentucky where they have an actual scholarship department that hands out the merit scholarships. They would be the organization or the operations that you would be going through. But normally it's the Office of Admissions. In others, when they package both the acceptance, they'll also then package the merit money that's going out. In addition to that, we've got need-based financial aid appeals, and that's going to be for sure the Office of Financial Aid. But in both of these cases, you may be wondering, and we often talk about this, who should be talking to these individual folks? And can you do both? And the answer is absolutely you can do both. We're often going to find that when it comes to merit aid, the student should be driving that conversation. They should be involved in that. When it comes to need-based, mom and dad, it's likely going to be those parents that are going to be involved. Why is that? Because as we all know, the students are often totally in the dark when it comes to the finances, unless maybe the families started having what we call the college money talk early in the process and have really worked through that. And by doing that, the students have a pretty clear idea of what's realistic and what isn't. But yes, you can absolutely do both. There's no reason not to, depending upon the circumstances as far as what's going on. So the next question that your families need to bring up is, should they be appealing? Do they have the grounds for doing this type of thing? And so let's take a look at some options here. So the first thing, we believe that these are good candidates for an appeal. First, maybe they've applied to a private college where there's a significant amount of investment that has to go into that. Maybe they had a retirement distribution. It was like a one-time distribution that was required. Could have been for any number of reasons, right, that took place. We see this all the time in divorce-separated situations where it makes sense to have a conversation. That sometimes comes down to also, did they have those conversations early enough to identify schools that may or may not take into consideration step parents and so forth? You definitely have to watch out for those institutional methodology versus the federal methodology colleges. meaning some colleges take both, as we know. I mean, there's over 200 colleges that require the CSS profile, and kind of how that all factors into that student aid index number. Another big place is with business owners. Business owners could be a situation where there might be some unique things that could come into play based on business losses and so forth. So what we will say is this: the better the offer from competing colleges, the better chance that you might have to get money from other schools if they look at them as a competitor. As we know, there's a lot of colleges out there that, especially the small liberal arts colleges, that are really looking to fill their incoming freshman class. And it could be a situation where, because of an offer from somebody else, you can use that to leverage. Now, who are really bad candidates for appeals? Well, state and public colleges and universities by far are the worst. The reason being is, let's face it, folks, they have a set budget that they're using. They've got set merit scholarships often that come into play. The one exception could be from a financial aid appeal, depending upon the family's circumstances. But again, those schools are kind of locked into what their situation is. Also, if there was really no change in financial situation, I will tell you, and I know Kevin's been doing a ton of these, but we run into families sometimes that think, hey, just for kicks and giggles, we're going to try to ask for additional money. But there really hasn't been anything significant that's happened. And they just kind of don't understand that. And also, it could be that there was not a one-time distribution, for example, from a retirement account. So you've got to talk through these specifics with families to be able to identify, do you have a case for going back and asking for an appeal? Any other thoughts there, Kevin?
No, that's a really good point, though. This isn't a negotiation. In some aspects, maybe it's some schools, but very few schools. Like the not super competitive private schools, they're a little bit more flexible. But for the most part, you need a valid reason, and you need to make a very strong case as to why, whether it be need-based or merit scholarships, you deserve more money. And there are some schools, like public schools, like Penn State, and I'm in New Jersey, so like Rutgers is a great example for us. They don't budge. And it's not even worth the stress or the hours of time that it takes to prepare the appeals, communicate with the schools to simply get a rejection. But really good points.
Right. So when it comes to those financial aid awards that have come in, things to look at, things to really care about, are things like the net cost projections. What are they putting down on there? We have seen financial aid offers that have come in that have older information. Maybe the school has yet to lock in their tuition rates, for example. But in addition to that, how do things look when it comes to the student aid index amount? Some schools do a really nice job right on the letter of, or on the financial aid offer of disclosing what the student aid index number was that they used in evaluating a family's need. Unfortunately, in a lot of cases, it's totally blind. There's nothing listed there, which is where your families need to go back and they need to look at the original email confirmation that they receive from their students that shows what the student aid index number was. And by the way, they often have no idea what that number actually is. They don't realize that that's a dollar amount because it doesn't have a dollar sign. It doesn't have a bunch of, things, glaringly saying this is what you need to be concerned about. But that's the beginning number for all of these colleges when it comes to how much they think that mom and dad can write a check to send, the son or daughter to college. Also looking at the cost of attendance with the sticker price. I mean, it's a big deal. It can make a big difference. Understanding again that there's those direct and indirect costs. And sometimes the indirect cost in particular, when it comes to like transportation, may not be applicable to your families. Or a significantly reduced amount. I've seen colleges that have $4,500 down there for transportation, and obviously if somebody lives local, that's going to have an impact. And then without a doubt, need. So let's all be clear. There are a lot of families out there that absolutely say we have a financial need. It doesn't matter how much they make, by the way, folks. I will tell you, they could make hundreds of thousands of dollars and still say, hey, we have a need. Sometimes that comes down to where the families live, based on the cost of living and those types of things. Without a doubt, that can have an impact. But it really does come down to understanding what that need might be and also comparing it to what was offered from the school. And that, again, all starts with that student aid index. What is the possibility of going back to those families and evaluating those financial aid offers to see what they may be able to get? So one other thing I think is important is these net price calculators that are out there. And, really what it comes down to it is those net price calculators, some of them are good, some of them are cruddy, as you probably have seen with families, a situation where when you run the numbers, what they had projected compared to what they actually received, there may be some shock and awe that goes on based on the numbers and the differences that come into play. So what I would say to you is this: it's run those net price calculators, but be careful. Don't allow your students and your families to get caught up in thinking this is our bottom line number, because they may again get a big surprise when those financial aid offers actually come in. All right, so this is the how. Kevin, do you want to take over talking about the how at this point?
Sure, sure. So I'll just build a little bit on what I was saying before in terms of how you have to make a strong case. First off, you're telling a story and you're making whoever's reading this appeal, ideally like a financial aid counselor or an admissions counselor, kind of understand your circumstances and just kind of have that personal touch, that connection. I do really firmly believe that's very helpful. When it comes to figuring out how much your family, I'm saying your family, but your students' families deserve in terms of additional aid, it's really good to figure out, well, all right, if they had a loss of income or if they had a one-time IRA distribution, how much should we have received? And when you know that number, you absolutely can make a specific ask. If the students you're working with, know that, hey, there's a scholarship that's $2,000 a year higher, and I was right on the fence of getting it, you can make that specific ask and say, like, I really firmly believe I deserve that. Or based on my family's circumstances, I believe that we deserve X amount of dollars more. Include the link to the net price calculator. They will ask for documentation on, well, honestly, both. If you're doing a merit appeal, report cards, any kind of like supporting evidence of what's included in there, very helpful. When you're doing a financial aid appeal and you're including like loss of income, well, thankfully it's April 16th, include that 24 tax return. Additional supporting documentation, medical expenses, they will ask for it. Now, students and parents should be very involved in the process, and students should take the lead on the admission side, right? If it's a merit appeal, parents should very much so take the lead if it's we lost our income or our circumstances changed on the financial aid side. But regardless, they both should be involved in each part of the process to some extent. Now, certain colleges have a very formal process, forms, portals to upload the information to. Follow it. You don't want to delay by not following the process, and then all of a sudden you hear a response in a week like, you didn't do what you're supposed to do this, and now you might not have an answer by May 1st. One thing that's very clear, and we've seen that, and it was very evident this year, is be persistent. Sometimes you have to kind of go back. Definitely helpful. And make sure you are getting in front of the right people, right? So if you're doing a financial aid appeal, you want to make sure you're getting in front of the people who are in the financial aid office. If you are doing a merit appeal, you want to make sure you get in front of the folks in the admissions department. You don't want to send a need-based appeal to the admissions counselor because they're ultimately just going to say, reach out to financial aid. I think that was, I don't think I'm missing anything. What do you think?
No, that's absolutely right. I mean, top to bottom, follow their protocol, because you may pay the price thinking that you're doing it one way when in reality, they expect you to do something totally different.
Yeah. And I know, like, we don't worry about the slide, but get it in now, right? So if we're talking about appealing, it's April 16th. We have 2 weeks left. If you want answers by May 1st, get this stuff in the next few days. I think a lot of schools, it's fair to say, like, can get answers back by May 1st still at this point. But if it's a complex need-based appeal, there's a chance they can't. Now, what could be included as part of a need-based appeal? So a lot of schools that use the CSS profile use your home equity. And maybe for one reason or another, it's inaccessible. There's other things that have come up. That should not be included. Any change in circumstances, whether it be a change in the assets that you have or a change in your income, absolutely a valid appeal. Changes to marital status, for example, if you filed 2023 as married filing jointly, and since then your students' families have gotten divorced, that's absolutely a valid reason to appeal. Medical expenses, those are typically on Schedule A of the tax return, but if they're not, regardless, that's a very valid reason to appeal, but it needs to be a sizable amount of income, right? We're not talking 2% of AGI, we're talking, 10% of AGI for it actually to make a meaningful difference. Business owners, a lot of assumptions are made. There's definitely an additional level of complexity and areas where the colleges may kind of put some numbers in that shouldn't be there. Business owners absolutely can appeal. One-time events, whether it be, severance pay, whether it be an IRA distribution, doesn't matter. That's good. And any type of financial hardship or strain on cash flow. And it has to be above and beyond normal necessary expenses. Think about something unusual, some type of financial hardship that caused a really significant strain on your ability to pay and impact on cash flow.
Anne Marie, did you have anything as far as any questions that came in or anything? Oh, you're muted.
So sorry. We don't have any questions at this point. I just wanted to remind everyone, if they do have questions, they can add it into that Q&A or into the chat, and we will get those answered. I also wanted to share with everyone a couple links about not only the school counselor toolkit that we share every time, but also an appeals guide that kind of reiterates some of the things that the guys have talked about today and kind of gives you some next steps.
All right. Thanks, Anne Marie. All right, Kevin. Here you go.
Anne Marie, I got excited when I saw you pop up, so thank you. And this is just an example. We worked with a family this year, basically got nothing. They got a student loan from Boston University. And this was a case, right? Loss of income, businesses, rental real estate, all of the above, essentially. And then drum roll, after effect. So again, initial, just loans. After we did the appeal, and it took 2 appeals, but after we did the appeal, they got $44,700 in grants. But also, I mean, this doesn't, it's still work, but the student also got work study as well, which is additional resources. So all in all, huge outcome. Basically took half the cost away. Went from over $90,000 a year to somewhere around $45,000 a year. And like, this might be situations that your students are currently in. This student could not have gone here had this appeal not happened. So kind of think about that, and definitely, take that moment, those next 2 weeks to look at, do we have the case to appeal? Can we appeal, and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, that total bottom line number of 51.2, my goodness, incredible appeal process. All right.
So we don't have to spend too much time on this, but family, 90,000 in income but high assets. Definitely an appealable circumstance, particularly because this person permanently disabled, limited income, can't go back to work full time, anything like that. Absolutely great reasons. Originally, they got $33,000, and then after that, they got $22,000 more. So literally, the amount of money they got almost doubled. So really, really good outcome. And this is truthfully, when there's a circumstance like this is absolutely the outcome that we see. So again, just continues to add to definitely worth appealing. And merit appeal, very few students, at least from what I've seen this year, got merit appeal on the first go around from Syracuse, but a typical merit appeal, right? What happened senior year, strong academics, leadership, so on and so forth, competing offers. We knew that they deserve something. They're right on the cusp of getting the Dean Scholarship, which was admittedly $10,000 a year. They ended up getting $5,000 a year in extra scholarships. So although $5,000 might not sound like a lot, multiply that by 4, $20,000.
Yeah, that's the real deal. I mean, everything counts. That's why even when we're talking to families about the small scholarships, it all adds up, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone thinks this, they're going to rescind the offer, admissions, all that. They will not. Appealing does not hurt anything else. It's absolutely okay to do in the right circumstances, as we've kind of alluded to throughout the presentation.
Guys, there's a question in the chat.
I
When
saw
you
that.
mentioned, yeah, you want to answer? That would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good question too. So cost of living, so in an affluent area in California, and students with a lower SAI can't get aid to match. There's a few additional details we would need, like what schools, what the actual SAI is, and so forth. But when it comes to living expenses, cost of living itself is usually not the strongest reason to appeal. But for example, high mortgage, if there's private school tuition, whatever it is, you can absolutely try and include that as part of the reasoning. But you usually want to include other circumstances that are going on. If they're not getting aid to match the lower SAI, though, it probably has something to do with the type of school. So when you're going through this process with students, you always want to reference percentage of need met and see how close they're actually going to get in terms of that SAI. Dan, would you add anything to that answer?
No, I mean, look, I'm of the opinion turn every single rock over. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, keep asking until they finally say enough, stop, right? If your families that you're working with out there, circumstances merit the need to appeal, have them appeal. Don't let them be afraid of it. I think that's the thing, is that they feel intimidated. They are so worried, back to what you said, Kevin, a minute ago, that it was hard enough to get into the school, that now they're going to come back and yank whatever they've gotten back from them. The reality is, it does not hurt to ask. um, and in this day and age, I mean, let's face it, we've seen a huge uptick in families that are going back. And why is that? Well, when you've got colleges that are $90 to $100,000 per year,
Mm-hmm.
for the more selective colleges out there, it's no wonder that families are having to come back and ask for additional monies. So, just encourage your families in the right cases that they pursue it.
And even if they had a high SAI, like we've seen several schools this year basically give goodwill. Like they know that they don't qualify for need-based or anything, but they did the forms, they did that. They explained that, listen, our income does not match our ability to pay. The student got $10,000 from Trinity. I think we had another 5,000 from WPI. Like that's real. I mean, $10,000 is 40 grand over the 4 years. So it doesn't hurt to ask, to your point, Dan. Oh, sorry. Do you want to cover this slide or do you want me to?
You can go for it.
Well, no, so you're on this side of the process more. Do you wanna
Well, okay, yeah, that's a good point. So let's talk about this wait list situation. I mean, how many of your families, in fact, I will tell you, I had a meeting just this morning with a family where the student is waitlisted at 3 colleges. And it really creates a challenge, doesn't it? I mean, you all know this. I'm speaking to the masses. You've got students right now that have been waitlisted at their top colleges for any number of reasons. As I shared with them this morning, the problem is, where in the wait list are you? And here's another one that I made them aware of. What if the colleges need aware when it comes to taking a student off the wait list, which could happen, folks? I mean, let's just be very, very clear about that. In other words, if they're comparing two students that look exactly the same, and student A has a financial need, but student B has none, meaning mom and dad are in a position to write that check, they're probably, if they're in need aware school, not probably, they're likely going to take the student off the wait list that can, write the check. So it's a big deal. It's a lot of pressure. Where we run into trouble with this, and we ran into this before last year. How many of us lived through the whole FAFSA debacle, right? I mean, it was unbelievable. Yeah, Anne Marie did, where we had to have families making decisions before they had their financial aid offers on the table. And so there have been double deposits, and there were double deposits that were made. And we know that there will be families that do it again. Now, look, from an ethics code, we know it's not the right thing to do to double deposit. We absolutely know it. We also know that there's this thing called the summer melt that happens. Colleges all talk about it, which is the number of students that have already applied to their school and matriculated in, but then changed their mind. Why might they change their mind? Well, because they suddenly got off the wait list at some other school that was much, much higher up in their list of schools. So, of course, the one place that you do not want to cross the line on this is with early decision, unless it's a case where it's a financial consideration, where the family just didn't do a good enough job from the beginning to run their numbers. and they're sitting back and realizing, oh my gosh, we made a huge mistake as far as putting this down as an ED school. Of course, we're encouraging all of you to get your students to run their numbers, use the MyCap software as a starting point for that, because you don't want to ever put them, or for that matter, you, the college, the school counselors, in this predicament. So, but again, the wait list, not wait list, what are they going to do? How are they going to approach this thing? It's truly all about trying to make solid decisions for the family and understand that circumstances may change if that student comes off that wait list. Anything else you want to share there, Kevin?
I mean, we've been talking about appeals for the bulk of this, and there is a good chance that if it's a need-based appeal, you're not going to hear back before May 1st. I just submitted
Right.
one, I think it was Villanova and Fairfield, 4 to 6 weeks. So like that student is not going to know if they're successful or not in the appeal. And they may be in a position where, one, they might have to ask for an extension, or two, they may have to put down 2 deposits. And we completely agree in terms of ethics, all of that, it's not ideal, but that's what's best for the family in that situation, because they don't know without a successful appeal if they're going to have enough support from Villanova or from Fairfield to actually be able to send their student there. And they can't lose out on all other options while they wait to hear back. So um, you've covered all the points there, but asking for an extension or placing 2 deposits may happen in some circumstances, and usually those circumstances warrant it.
Yeah, very, very good point.
Yeah.
It's such it. Families never ever feel good about it. Let's not also forget the fact that sometimes what happens is that there may be a loss of that deposit. That's part of the consequence with it. But hopefully, what's going to happen is that that they pick the right college and it all works out for them. So the problem we're running into right now is the time is of the essence. We're running out of time, absolutely running out of time, and again, that could be an issue.
I just got stressed hearing that.
Right?
But
Well,
it's really true. We are up against the deadline, May 1st. We've got a lot to get done before then.
Yeah.
We have a raised hand. Good point, Emery. But we don't have a question that corresponds with it.
Yeah, if you could put the question in the Q&A for us, that would be
Q&A,
awesome.
chat,
Yeah,
anything.
chat, right. You can put it in the chat, right.
But
So once again, our mission is very clear: to end the student debt crisis by empowering your families to shop smarter for college. I mean, that's really what we're doing across the board. So, Anne Marie, any questions, any other things that have been put in the chat box we should address?
No, I just wanted to say thank you to you too. It's always, as a mom, I always tell all the counselors when I'm talking to them that I am in the thick of it. I have juniors in college and a sophomore in high school, finishing up her sophomore year. So every time I listen to you all talk, it's just fascinating. I lovingly call you our financial aid nerds, because I am that mom that is learning from you every single time, and you dropped a bunch of gems here, and I'm so appreciative. And um, friends, counselors, if you have questions, obviously you can email us at counselor@collegeaidpro.com, and I can get those questions to Kevin or Dan. Uh, I have put in the chat both our school counselor toolkit. It gives you lots of different things, as well as our appeal guide that'll give you some next steps. Kevin and Dan, I really appreciate you. If there are no more questions, we'll kind of hang on. It looks like we have one in Q&A that's there. Oh, there we go.
yeah,
So do you see it?
yeah. Dan, do you want to take it?
Yeah, are there changes to the Pell Grant maximum amounts? So we're up to the total amount that's for this particular year is about $7,400. Wish it were a whole lot more than that, folks. Really, really do. But unfortunately, that's where it is right now. And by the way, one other thing, you didn't ask this question, but I'm going to offer it anyway. Remember that the loan interest rates are getting ready to be set here very soon for
Yeah.
the federal direct student loans and for the federal Parent Plus loans. I hope they go down a little bit because of what those rates are at. But yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions that we can, this is your time. You got their undivided attention to answer those questions. But
Hey,
like I said, you can always email us too.
hey, Emery, do you want to drop that email in the chat just in
Sure.
case some folks don't have it?
Yes.
I'm hoping we get another question.
I know. Um, I was going to just say that if you have colleagues who do not subscribe to our Counselor Coffee Talk, I would encourage you to share this school counselor toolkit because we've got lots of knowledge that is being dropped each and every time we get on here, and I would love for you to share that.
And can I
But
just add that appeals guide that you dropped in there? My gosh,
yeah,
is that a gem? That literally has templates for families, that has a video with Matt explaining how to appeal. Um, it is so valuable that no reason not to take a peek at that and share that out because my gosh, it helps with this process.
yeah,
Mhm.
it does. Okay, y'all, have a wonderful Wednesday afternoon, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Thanks
All
so
right.
much, guys.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Take care.